Okay, check, check, check. Hello and welcome to this live programming with AI video. My name is Anthony. I'm a software engineer, and if you've been on my YouTube channel before, you probably know me as a guitar player. That's what I usually do here. But I've been looking to explore talking about software engineering and doing kind of live programming exercises and explorations on YouTube for quite a while, taking inspiration from folks like John Genset, who has a great channel. If you're a software engineer, definitely go check his channel out. Whether you know Rust or not, you'll definitely enjoy it. And even for people who are not software engineers or are just curious about learning about AI, what it looks like under the hood of a computer program, what it looks like to program out in the real world now with these new tools. Are all programmers just replaced by AI bots now? Which no, they're not. we as software engineers are also learning how to use these new tools that are coming out. You know, it's not just ChatGPT and all these other great tools and some not so great that are coming out, but that affect like the everyday person out on the internet. But also as software engineers, there are a lot of new tools coming out that we're getting used to actually using to build software and make sure that software stays very effective and safe and useful and adding value for people. So no matter who you are, if you're interested in this topic, I would say stay. If you are a professional like me and perhaps even more experienced than me, feel free to stick around and pop open your IDE and come along with me on this journey and see what we can figure out and build kind of in real time. If you are a product person who just wants to know how this affects your team, feel free to, and I mean how these tools will affect your team going forward, feel free to stick around and see what you can integrate into your own workflows. Feel free to disagree with me on my philosophies and everything. If you feel like you want to, drop comments. This is interesting conversations to have, to keep each other sharp as technical experts. If you are not in this world at all, if you drive a truck or, if you are an electrician and you are just curious about AI and anything software related, and you've maybe always wanted to see what it actually looks like and what it actually means, and how it actually works, and see how professionals, in this space think about it, this is a peek under the hood for you, and maybe that'll start a whole new area of exploration in your career path, and that's great as well. So regardless, I think I will learn something from doing this, and I think perhaps you will learn something from watching, and maybe we can have a conversation about it, which is a really interesting conversation to have. I'm not sure where is the best place to look when I'm actually talking. I can look directly at the camera, or I can look down where my thing is. Anyway, you'll see that this is very, very new for me, but I hope that it sounds okay and looks okay, and we're just going to jump right into it. So I'm not sure exactly what this will become, if this is a one and done type video, or if this is a 10-part series about building something, but we shall see. We'll do it together, come along together. Okay, so yeah, grab yourself a cup of coffee or water, as I have here, both, and either get ready to get your hands dirty or get ready to just take it all in and see what maybe you can learn from it. Okay. So what are we actually going to be doing? Well, my lovely wife over at coralpop.com, by the way, Natalie, check out her YouTube video and her website, coralpop.com, CHORAL pop.com. Had this idea for an application that personally I thought was pretty cool, and potentially could be not only possible to build, but maybe even quickly with the tools that are out here right now in the world. So, I'm sure everybody has these ideas, or, a lot of you out there probably do, where you're like, hey, I could, try to make an app for X, Y, and Z, and oh, this would be great. Or I thought of this way before. I thought of Uber way before Uber, I'm sure a lot of people have had that thought before. Maybe you have. But this is how you could, if you wanted to, take one of these ideas that she literally wrote the requirements down on a little piece of paper like this. That's how many requirements I have. And if you know out there in the software world that this is sometimes very similar to how it actually goes on the front lines about how many requirements you may actually get. No, we love our product teams out there. But anyway, we're going to see how maybe we could go from this to something that may actually work. And what I'm going to try to do is stick to as many AI-based tools as possible. I'm going to start by kind of using what I know and what I use on a daily basis, when I'm working. But, even, I'm guilty as anybody of kind of getting stuck in my ways. So even my workflow might be a little outdated. There might be, tools that have come out since I've started using Cursor, which you'll see is mostly what I'm using for my, AI-based development environment. There's new things out there now that I could use, and maybe as I go about this project, I will decide to use a different tool that maybe I was like, maybe I'll be like, oh, I've heard about X, Y, or Z, and maybe I'll try that tool as part of this as a little exploration, which for those of you who are not familiar with software development, that's very common to the job is you have to find time when you're just going about your business to try to use a new tool, or somehow modernize your workflow, or sometimes you try things and you go, oh, this is not for me. And that's useful too. But you have to try to keep yourself sharp with what's coming up, because if you want to be really good, at least that's part of the requirements, is to constantly be learning. So in that spirit, I will also be trying to learn new things as part of this. Okay, that's quite an intro, but we're going to get right into what the app is that we're going to use to do this as a project. So here we go. See how I did that? Yeah, resize my head, no problem. All right, I am a real-time video producer. Okay, friends, so usually in the software engineering world, what we do is we start with what we call a README file, and you'll see that I'm really starting as bare bones as I can here. All I have is a folder open in my Cursor, which, if you know that Cursor is one of, I would argue, probably one of the leading LLM-based AI-driven products out in the development market currently. I'm sure a lot of teams are using it. We are, I can't swear by it, but it has been okay so far, and I could do a whole video about what I've learned using Cursor so far, and I'll get into some of that here, probably in this video for the developers out there. But you'll see as I use it what comes up. And what it's good at and what it's not good at. And that's part of what we're learning here, because what we're trying to figure out is how good are these tools and how much can we actually do if we don't know anything about what we're doing, or if we do know something about what we're doing, what can we actually accomplish is part of this journey. So let's get into it. So what is it? So this is what my lovely wife, Natalie, has come up with as an idea for us to work on. It is called Rex, and Rex is a application for people to share recommended products with their friends. Nice, right? Seems like a good idea. Maybe something that somebody has thought of before, maybe even something that exists out there. I'm not, we're not necessarily trying to start a multi-billion-dollar company here, so it's not too bad if there is an app out there that already does this. Maybe you use one already, but we have never seen one, or at least not one that we has functioned the way that we discussed it. So we are going to just build exactly what we want and what we want to see, and we're not going to do any product research here. We could get into how to do that another day, but this is mostly about just building something that we she really would like to see. So here's what she said. We have some notion of features. So let's see. Share your Rex. Get it, by the way? Rex, recommendation, Rex. What's your Rex? That was my idea, by the way. That's the only thing I've contributed to this so far. It's the name. We have a logo too, but we'll reveal that. Maybe if you stick around to the end, you get to see what the logo is for Rex. All right. So, all right. How are we doing on time? Well, we're 10 minutes in. All right. Good thing I didn't say like, oh, we're going to do this in an hour or something, because who knows how long this is actually going to take. We'll see, though. Hope you grabbed your coffee, because I'm going to be sipping away at that. Okay. Features. Share your Rex. We'll talk about maybe what that is in a second. I don't know. Who knows? Okay. She wants to be able to like post a photo or a video of a product. Okay. So what are we doing right now, by the way? We're kind of outlining what we know so far. This is kind of how any, kind of product requirement-based conversation is going to start out in the real world too. We're just going to write down kind of a skeleton of what it is that we're looking for, because then that's going to reveal the things that we really have no idea what it is we want yet, or we have to really answer some hard questions about. The first thing you have to do is just write down everything you know so far and try to group it into a relative structure of like an overview of the thing, what the goals are, who the user is, and I think what I'm assuming here is that everyone has, a general kind of assumption of how an app like this functions. We've seen enough of these at some point in our lives, but we're going to get into that, you're sharing back and forth and, maybe liking, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of that social media based kind of application from what she has told me so far that she wants. And, Google Maps interaction. These are the kinds of things where it's like, as a software engineer, this is really what people will come to you with. They'll be like, hey, maybe they've even raised money on an idea like this, and they're like, hey, we really want a product that just, you can share a recommendation, post a photo and a video of it, name it, have a Google Maps interaction. This is what she wrote on this piece of paper. Spotify integration. I guess we want to recommend playlists too. So recommending multiple kinds of things. And then you want to search it, probably have some AI based thing where you say, do any of my friends have, recommendations for blank? Okay. So that's kind of the core, like, cool feature that this will have, is like, do any of my friends have recommendations for this or that? And then we have a thing about, what could happen next. All right, so let's get into it. So you want to post a video of a product, let's say could be one of, I don't know, it could be, let's say, a restaurant, or it could be a it could be a beauty product. It could be it could be clothing. AI is starting to jump in and help me here. So this is where Cursor comes into play. So Cursor is starting to recommend things to me as autocomplete, and you can see that here in the gray, that it's starting to recommend stuff. It's starting to be like, hey, is this what you're talking about? So we get the idea, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and then once you share a rec, we want to be able to search recs, right? And we basically want to answer the question, what are my friends recommending? Yeah, that's right, for blank. Right? So this is the kind of basic idea for the app, is you can recommend something, it saves it, you can follow your friends who are recommending things, and then you can search for what people have recommended for a particular product. So that's the basics of the thing. So how would we build something like this? And this is obviously very, very basic, right? Like, we're going to have to answer a lot of questions here, but this is how ideas start. So let's see what we can make of it. Okay. So we would need we need a interface for, and when I say interface, I mean an actual screen, right? You need something that the user can interact with. You would need an interface for creating a Rex, viewing your Rex, viewing others' Rex, searching for Rex. Okay. Now, how do we actually take what it is that we've written here and turn it into real software and a real application that we can really use, right? Well, we need to start actually implementing some code for this, and an idea of what the pattern of this application could actually look like, so it could actually work, right? Now, what would happen if I just took this and put it into ChatGPT, right? What is it that would actually come of it? That's something that I think a lot of people are probably doing right now, which is, hey, I have a list of things that I know an application needs to do. Why can't I just drop this into ChatGPT and kind of just do that and see what happens? Well, I mean, let's see what happens, right? That's actually a worthwhile thing for us to test. So I'm not going to use literal ChatGPT, but I'm going to use Cursor's integrated agent, okay? I'm going to use Cursor's integrated agent, which is a souped up version of ChatGPT for the uninitiated, basically meaning that it is made for writing code. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build this out to basically as specific as I can make it for right now, to see what happens if I just drop this template that describes an application into an LLM, which is basically what this is. So this is the equivalent of using ChatGPT, but it's made for writing code. And for, for people who know what it is I'm talking about, I'm simplifying it significantly, but I'm attempting to try to keep this simple for everybody and understandable. So this is the some would argue probably the latest and greatest tool for writing software that uses LLMs the way that other people are figuring out how to use LLMs like ChatGPT, right? For people who are used to that one. So this is the tool that we use as software engineers. So I know that if I add more detail to this README file that we're creating for this, that I'm going to get a pretty good output from this particular program because it's decent at writing code. It's pretty good, and it can get us pretty far. So I think that's what I'm going to try to do here. Is I'm going to build this out a little bit more, and I am going to there's a couple different ways I can do it, and I'm trying to determine which would be the best for this use case. So I could either make this file as descriptive as possible and drop it into the program and expect it to do exactly what I wrote in there. Or I could leave it a little more general, but then it's going to do things like choose frameworks for me, or choose coding languages for me, which I'm not entirely sure I want. I think I want to try to make those decisions up front because I will get a better result. If it says, oh, you can write all of this in Ruby, here you go. I don't really want that. I think I want to stick to trying to build something as fast as possible, which means I should stick to the languages that I know best, which would be Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, or Rust. So that's like the first decision I'm going to make for this particular implementation, because that just makes the most sense for getting the most done quickly. And you can argue with me about that in the comments. That is fine. So I think what I am going to do is I'm going to make some assumptions and decisions for us, instead of leaving it too open-ended, because I think that's where I might be able to show folks how, anybody can do what I've done so far. Anybody can get to this point, but here's where, the software knowledge comes in, and where we actually can get towards something that might actually work and do what it is that we're looking to do. So here we go. So we need user interfaces for this. I want this written in, how do I want this written? I want it to be really, really simple. I want to say pure HTML and JavaScript. And the reason for that is, get nervous typing with people watching. Okay, so I'm going to choose to write it in pure HTML and JavaScript because it's going to be the easiest to understand, even for programmers too. If you're not a programmer, maybe you don't understand it regardless, and that's fine. Maybe you'll learn something and get used to seeing computer code. But if you are a programmer, I think it's the easiest to talk about JavaScript and HTML and kind of these I'm gonna try to keep it as basic as possible. Try to stick as close to, kind of pure APIs as possible, with not too many packages. I want us to prove that we need packages, which I think is a technique that I, maybe other software engineers would agree with, and maybe not. That I don't like to just reach for any package, especially nowadays where you have to be a little more skeptical about what's out in the open source world, and that's not to say there aren't a lot of great and reputable packages out there, because there are, and I rely a lot on some of them. I'm very grateful for a lot of them, but you got to be careful what you just pull in, and this is one of the first real lessons that you will learn using LLMs, especially as a software engineer, which I caution you against right from the beginning, which is you will see probably as we get into this too, and I realize I haven't prompted a single time yet, but we are getting to it. I promise. We're 24 minutes in. We haven't written a prompt yet, but we are getting there, and we're not going to stop once we get there. But if you will see that as we start getting recommendations from Cursor, one of the things that you really have to be careful about is what packages it is recommending that you pull in, and what packages it will just write to your package files. And if you don't inspect all of those carefully, I have seen that it has recommended and written to my package files things that I would never want to install because they were not very well rated packages or maintained. And I had to look at that before I went ahead and just installed those packages on my images and things. So be very, very cautious about just pulling in whatever packages this thing recommends to you. And that is one of the dangers if you're, a little more green with software, or to the untrained eye, something that you might not think of. But be very, very careful. Ultimately, all of this is software that's getting installed onto your computer. And that's where we're going to be running this computer code. So be very careful about what you allow to be installed. And we'll get into that. We'll see. All right. So for all that babbling reason, I'm going to choose to keep pure HTML and JavaScript as our quote unquote front end. Who knows? This might be like an iPhone app or something. So if it evolves into that, great. But we won't need that for right now. We'll do that as we go. In that case, we'd probably do React Native, but we'll come back to that. All right. And if you have no idea what I just said, don't worry about it. So what we're basically saying is we need a front end. We need an app for people to use, right? That's it. We're also going to need a API. Now we're getting into the software part of it, right? We're going to need an API for the following methods. And it's really just going to be the same for right now. Let's just do that. Create a Rex, view a Rex, search a Rex. Let's just stick with that. Database, and see, we're starting to get some recommendations. I had a feeling it was going to recommend Firebase. I don't know if Cursor gets paid from Firebase or something. Of course, now we're getting into like what it's advertising to you and why. It's another thing we can talk about later, but I don't really want to use Firebase. I kind of want to use something that I can run locally. I realize that now I've already probably started losing some people who are untrained, but I would say hang in there. Essentially what I'm thinking about now is what to use for storage, where I'm actually going to store the data that we create. And I'm just thinking about what would be the easiest to deploy. There's a lot of great options out there. I mean, Firebase isn't a terrible idea. It does solve a lot of problems for you up front. I think for now, we're going to go literally store it to a file, a JSON file in the project. I don't need it. I don't need a database right now. We're gonna need it if we want to make a proper app, and that's part of what we're gonna learn along the way. But for now, I'm just gonna say, hey, store my data in a JSON file in the project, and I'm leaving it a little vague on purpose for now. Let's see what happens. So how much detail do we want to add to this before we start prompting? This is an interesting place to start and just see what happens. I'm going to say that I want my API written in Python with Flask, which, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. I'm just saying Python is the software language that I want it written in, my API, and Flask is the framework that I wanted to use to serve that API, and we'll see why as we go. And if you know, you know, and no issue there. Okay, I'm very curious to see what comes up from this on its own. I'm gonna say a couple more things maybe first. I'm gonna say separate the front end and back end source code. Provide a Docker Compose file to run the project. Make a Docker file for front end and Docker file for back end. And if you have no idea what this is the part where the difference in your software engineering knowledge will be apparent. But essentially, what I'm doing is I'm creating the containerized environment where we can run this application. So basically, instead of me running this directly on my computer, I'd like to run it in an isolated environment. So this is just a tool for creating that isolated environment. And if you have any questions about that, drop them in the comments, and don't be shy. Everybody has their different level of knowledge, so we can talk about that. And if you know, you know. And you will be very familiar with this. And I think you have also probably been impressed with how good these LLMs are at creating these kinds of files, because they are very good from what I've seen so far. All right, let's keep on trucking. I think I'm almost happy with the amount of detail that I want to provide. I want to leave enough space for the LLM to show like what it's good at. I'm trying to cover enough ground where the basics will be answered, so I'm not going to get answers that are like, oh, that's not the software language I wanted, or that's not the framework that I want to use. If I could just cover those very basic elements, kind of decisions that need to be made up front, I'm going to get the most value from this response, because then it's going to be like, oh, I have enough context to really just implement exactly this function or exactly this piece of code. And it's a lot better when it gets down to the fine-grained level. The more detail you can provide, the better output you will get most of the time. And I could even go further into detail, much, much further, as anybody who's done this will know, much further into detail than I've done here. But I'm choosing to try to keep it a little open-ended, so we can show off kind of what Cursor is good at and see what it's capable of, and kind of leave enough for it to kind of show its stuff in a way. And yeah, well, let's see what detail what else we might want to add, and then I think we're almost ready to really start getting into some code. So I like this. I like just having a couple of features for now. I'm even going to push it a little bit further and say use LLM. Yeah, I'm going to say LangChain. So for those who don't know, LangChain is a tool for interacting with LLMs, and that's what I want to use as part of this project. That's something that I'm personally learning more and more about. So I want to use that as part of this. So we'll see what that does for us. So it's basically using ChatGPT. You could use, if in your mind, if you're familiar with that, you can say, okay, it's like using ChatGPT to answer the question, what is this user asking for, and use the JSON file store. And LLM to answer the question. Use best practices for LangChain and okay. This is pretty interesting level of detail, in my opinion. It's like just enough to maybe write some good software, and also just enough to see kind of what the LLM does for us. So, let's just see. We're going to use the agent setting. We're going to use whatever its recommended model is. This looks like Claude 4.5 Sonnet, maybe the latest. And we're going to use this agent mode, which is different from the ask mode, where ask mode is more like just a live prompt that's just going to give you one response. Agent is actually going to run what's called an agent, which is really just a graph of logic that uses LLMs to find its answers. So basically, it's a bunch of prompts put together and all integrated with each other to answer, nested questions is how you can think about it. And if you're an expert in this field, you can, drop what your interpretation of that is and what your definition of an agent is. But I think that's good enough for now, is that it's a bunch of prompts put together that all depend on each other. So we're going to use the agent mode because it's actually going to try to write code for us. It's an agent that's made by Cursor to write computer code and correct computer code, hopefully. So we're going to see what it can come up with, and it's going to use Claude 4 or 5 as its base model. It's always fun to see. Let's see what it says. Planning next moves. Thinking about how to maximize the use of parallel calls. So if we check it out, it's already run a first step for planning, which has given us a to-do list, which probably is pretty close to what we want. So let's see. It's going to scaffold a project structure and a JSON data store. That is what I want. Implement a Flask backend API with JSON store. That is also what I want. Integrate LangChain. That's what I want. Create a front end. That's what I want. CORS handling. Okay, that's good. Docker files. Docker compose files. Update README. So then it's going to run each of those to-do. So this is the benefit of the agent architecture, is it's going to run each of those to-dos now, which is super cool. So it's going to scaffold the project structure, inspect the workspace, create the initial front end. So it's just chugging away at all of these things that it thinks I want to do. And it's probably pretty close. It's probably pretty good. I'm going to let this run, and I'm probably going to skip the video for a second and come back when this is done. All right, friends, we are back. You don't even know how long that break was. I might have snuck a sandwich in there as well, and a snack. So it's apple season now in New Jersey, and very excited about that. So couldn't pass up one of those New Jersey, New York apples. Okay, I think it was a winter banana specifically. It's going to be a great apple season. Tomato season was awesome. Apple season is going to be great. So we have an output now from our LLM, which attempted to write a program for us. And it actually did a pretty good job. So I'm just going to go ahead. This is not something I usually do. I'm just going to go ahead and keep all, which usually I don't do because usually I want to review the changes. But because this is all just the first change, I don't have to run any of this if I don't want to. So I'm just going to keep all for now, just because it'll make it a little easier to read. But it actually wrote in the README what it did for us. So it made a project structure with a back end and a front end and a Docker compose file, which we wanted, and a JSON file to store it, which we wanted, and gave us the option to export some keys, which we'll get into, and how to build and start. And okay, so this looks pretty good already. Here's a startup command without Docker, with Docker. This all looks well and fine to me. LLM integration is optional. Okay. And then let's take a look at the code. So here we go. @py, so this is our backend service. Okay. It loads the data file, saves stuff, validates payload. So this all looks fine to me. Get recs, list recs, search recs. Cool. Yeah, I mean, this is the stuff that AI is really good at. That, like, this is the stunning thing as a software engineer. It's like, wow, I can really write code faster than ever before. Like this, this is pretty basic boilerplate code, but every engineer knows that we've spent, if you've been working in the decades before this, that you spent hours, and hours writing code that looks just like this. So the fact that this gets you so far so quickly means that you can really build faster than ever before, and that was kind of the inspiration for this video. So with that in mind, let's keep plugging away. So I'm just like giving this a code review basically, and I know that to the untrained eye, you might have no idea what it is I'm looking at, but I'm basically seeing that this code is pretty straightforward, pretty well contained, pretty understandable to read, and I don't see. I'm looking out for anything that's like a red flag of something that could potentially be damaging. So let's keep giving it a review here. Okay, so it's gonna. We could give like every API endpoint like a once over basically. So this is just a basic startup script. That's fine. I'm used to seeing things about Flask, so that's fine. We wanted that. It's just reading the body. So like this isn't necessarily a programming class, so I'm not going to get into why all of this is okay or what it is I'm looking for. If you know, in a way, but I think you can get the idea, even as an everyday individual that's not a software engineer, that, I basically just passed in this exact README that we wrote that described our application and got a working, we'll find out if it's working, but a hypothetically working piece of code back, which was pretty substantial from an architecture perspective, as a back end, a front end, and a data layer, and a runtime environment that basically covers everything we need as a software stack to get us started. So I think we can all appreciate how much work just happened automatically. It's pretty miraculous, pretty cool. So shout out to Cursor for that, and we're going to see how well it did. It looks like it's off to a good start. So now I'm going to just keep reviewing what happened to make sure that nothing seems fishy. So let's check out the Docker Compose file. So it's going to run, we're going to look at these Docker files, but it's going to build based on these definition files, which are called Docker files. And obviously I'm zooming in and out of levels of detail here, but I'm trying to stick true to the mission, which is how fast can we actually build something useful. So if you don't understand some or all of this, excuse me, then, be curious and dig in or ask questions. The software engineering community is pretty open. And teaching is part of the job. So I think anybody would be willing to answer questions. Okay. So it uses an open API key. So whenever we see keys, we want to, our flags need to go up or our defenses need to go up a little bit, but this looks fine. It's asking us to just set a key, which is going to tell it how it can reach out to our account for open API. So that seems fine to me, as long as it's not doing anything weird with that key. So let's actually find out. If I just search the whole repo for where it's used. Like it's not used at all, which is a little weird. Am I spelling this right? Open AI. Oh, my bad. OpenAI API key. There we go. So it sets it, and then it reads it here when it needs it to make a use LLM call. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's a good usage of it, and that's the only usage of it. So we're good. OpenAI. Sorry, folks. AI API key. Cool. That is the only usage of that. Alrighty. So I don't feel suspicious about that. Volume mount is the only one that we expect. Our data file from our folder. And then you get a front end, exposes it, depends on back end. This is as straightforward as a Docker file can get, so I'm not concerned about any of this. Take a quick peek at the app file, which is our front end. It runs create form, list, search, refresh. A bunch of very, very basic UI folks, UI code folks. Misspoke there. UI code folks. So pretty chill. Wire create form. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be just the most boring UI of all time, but that's totally fine. That's what we want. There you go. So it's just creating. I mean, this is pretty cool, folks. There's no fishy code in here at all from what I see. Let's just check out what the requirements were. There's our empty data. It's expected. Okay, I'm going to do a quick, you know what, just to kind of show off how I think about these things and what I would do, even though I pretty much trust everything that's on that list right there. I'm going to just assume that I didn't because it's interesting to just think through how we would validate that all of that is, you know, okay to have in our application. And the fact that we're running this in a Docker file, and like I said, can add more detail about that if someone's interested in another video. But the fact that we're running this in a Docker file means it's a pretty secure environment. And we're going to check out these Docker files too. But we're going to go ahead and validate everything that came back from the LLM because that's, you know, kind of the prudent and correct thing to do if you're using this professionally. So let's see. Flask, Python, you know, we're using pip. So, I mean, I know people are going to think this is ridiculous, but of course, Flask is a great project and super reputable. But if you didn't know that, it is worth checking out, you know? But look at all those stars. Great project, great project, great project. So we're fine with that. And, you know, I would guess that Flask cores is probably made by the same folks, but hey. And you know what? You could even go ahead and grab this list and use your tool right here and just say, hey, look up each of these dependencies in pip and tell me how reputable they are. Provide a link to the source code for each. That's pretty cool, right? So, you know, you can also do it by hand, but whatever. Flask cores, obviously, plenty of stars, awesome repo, great people, verified by Pi. Same thing with LangChain. I don't think I have to go crazy with that one, but you know what? Why not? Just takes a second, right? It's security we're talking about. Oop, I spelled that wrong, but it got my attention there. Okay. Great project. If that's not enough stars for you, I don't know what is. Okay, LangChain. I've never seen LangChain open AI, but always remember that people can create projects that sound like the projects that you're used to seeing. So don't, you know, you can't just assume, but, you know, like we said, here it is, plenty of stars. OpenAI itself. And how's my pip search? Okay, it wants to confirm to do a search. I'll go ahead and let it do that. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. That's Cursor trying to get user feedback to make you think that you're really in charge of everything it's doing, which, yeah, you are, but it does a lot. So you got to be careful. Oh man, it's taking a while, but so hey, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it by hand, I guess, over here. All right, obviously plenty of good reviews on this one, I imagine, right? Project description, released. Oh, it doesn't say. Where's the source code? Here we go. All right, wonderful. Beautiful repo also. And then Uvicorn. I don't think I need to look that one up either, but hey, we're trying to just demonstrate here. Okay, now we've officially looked up everything that this wants to install, and we're happy with all of it. How are we using Uvicorn though? Let's check that out. I'm curious. Uvicorn. Why are we using that? Why do we need this? What does this do exactly? I don't know that I even need Uvicorn. So you see, that's kind of the thing. I don't think I need that. That's why we check, I'm gonna stop this. So here's obviously something that Cursor wasn't very good at, which is strange. Okay. Sorry, folks. All right, let's keep on trucking here. So we're happy with all of the Python dependencies now. I'm going to just take a peek at these Docker files before I go running anything. Python don't write bytecode equals 1. Is that? Why do I need that? Why do I need these Python envars? Submitting a previous message. No, I don't want to revert. I want to just ask a new question. Okay, I don't think I asked a specific enough question. This is my fault. I need to probably reset this. Oh, here we go. Don't write bytecode. Disable standard out buffing so Python logs appear better for... Okay, so... I'm just going to do a quick search on this. Like, is this something that people use? Don't write bytecode? I don't know if I've ever seen that. Storing bytecode on disk is used to compile Python into bytecode. Okay, I don't think this is damaging in any way. Is it standard practice? And this is the kind of thing I like asking LLMs too. I like the standard practice questions because you gotta hope that expert opinion is weighted pretty heavily in its model. So I hope that these questions give pretty good responses, and they seem to. Is it standard practice to use this mvar in a Python Docker image? I'll just pass both. Yes, both are common. Okay. I'm not used to seeing those, but cool. Dig it. Python 3.1.1 Slim. I think that is a reputable Python image. And for those who don't know, basically what that is it's just the base kind of computer image that this code is going to run on, and make sure it has all the right things that it needs in the environment in order to execute this Python code. So I'm just making sure that that's one that's actually like an official distribution, and it's not just something weird that someone decided to recommend to me. Again, checking the LLM's output, right? Yes, it's an official Docker library image maintained by the Python core team. So that's what you're looking for, right? Okay. So we'll do that. This just installs some stuff. Get update, apt-get installed, no install recommends, build essential, curl, remove var lib apt lists. Not sure what this is for. This is probably, let's see. What does this line do that removes var lib apt lists? Maybe that's a temp directory that's installed. It deletes app downloaded package index to shrink the image. Okay, cool. I don't mind that. That's cool. And then we copy the backend code and the data file, and we expose the host. That's a great Docker file. I'm happy with that. Super simple. Doesn't do anything fishy. Let's also have it run as an application user. Add to this file a application user so we don't run as root. It's a security procedure. Slim down the permissions. Adds a group. User add app. Okay, that looks good. That's what we want. Now it has an app user. Doesn't need to be more complicated than that, I don't think. All right, so we're going to check the Docker file on the front end as well. And we're almost ready to run this. So here's our base image. Is this a reputable image for Nginx? Gets the files that it needs. Okay, that's the official Nginx Docker image. We're happy with that. Put it in the right place. Expose it. All right, folks. So I'm very happy with this Nginx config. Nothing looks out of the ordinary here. Okay, that looks fine. So we're going to go ahead and get this started then. So it even gave us in the README file a how to run. So I'm not going to worry about the OpenAI key just yet. We're going to just run the start. Okay, here we go, folks. How good is the AI at writing code? It's pretty good. I'll give you a spoiler. It is pretty good. It's just amazing how fast you can build things now, which is, you know, why we wanted to make this video. It's pretty cool. So let's see how far we can get to actually getting something that might look like an app that someone might want to use. Be pretty fun. So what's happening right now, for those who don't know, we covered a lot of ground in 50 minutes. If you didn't know anything about software engineering, you just covered a lot of topics that you might want to look into. But what's happening right now is it's actually starting up the little containerized environment, isolated environment to run the application, which in this case is two applications, the app, the front end code, and also the back end code. And it looks like we've already hit an error, perhaps. So let's see what happened. We got ports are not available because they're already in use. But that's interesting because I'm wondering if that means it actually started up, because we did get some good looking startup logs here. So let's see. If we go over to the Docker, which is don't worry too much if you're uninitiated into this. This is just the little environment to run the code that we want to see. So it's something you might want to look into if you don't know what it is. Okay, so we have a back end and a front end. That looks pretty promising. And if we go to our back end logs, okay, looks like it might be stopped. Front end logs also looks like not really working. So just out of curiosity, I don't think there should be anything here, but if I go to the ports that are supposed to be used, localhost, looks like localhost 4,000. Oh, I'm sorry, 5,000. Okay, nothing there. Address already in use. Okay. Let's check out my port 5000. What's already, so something's running on there, okay. So let's go ahead and kill that process. Looks like a different process is running there now. That's interesting. This is the real stuff, folks. 48811. Something else starts up. Okay, so I have an app running on 4,000 already. I'm sorry, 5,000. It is this one. I think we're supposed to have a health check. I see a health check in here. Health, API/health. So let's see. Okay. Doesn't look like it's started up correctly. So that's our first issue to solve. But it looks like our image is built, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and delete these containers for now. I wonder if I just tried to start one of these. So if I just want to do a Docker compose up for one of them, and when I say one of them, I mean one service, we can try that. Maybe I'll just start up backend. Actually, you know, front end is probably simpler. I don't know. They're both pretty simple, but let's see. Front end spins up. Oh, and it probably depends on back end. So it probably runs back end anyway. That's interesting. Okay, didn't realize that. Okay, so we want to try to use AI as much as possible. That's the goal with this project. So I think we're going to see how well it does at solving this particular problem. So obviously it is starting up these two apps, creating the containers, and then we're getting a port not available afterwards. So let's see how well this does in actually solving that problem. Okay, so I'm going to add this file as a context, and I'm going to say when I run the attached docker compose up, I receive the following error. And it might help, it actually might help, first of all, to include more of this log to show that it's actually building some of the Docker file. And that should help it target the response. And then I might want to add as context the actual Docker files themselves too, just to be very specific. So if I add more of these, I'll go Docker file backend, Docker file front end, and the Docker compose. That should be about as much context as I can possibly give it. This is fun. Isn't this fun? We're almost there. We might actually see some working code soon. And isn't that amazing that we've done this in almost under an hour? I know you haven't seen anything yet, but you'll see how close it looks to complete with so little time. I think I may have forgotten to hit the go button. Okay. I'll remove the host front end. Okay. It is... I mean, I actually know what the problem is, I think, in this case. I'm wondering if it can figure it out. I think the problem is that we didn't make a network. This doesn't look like the right response to me. I'm going to say, don't we need to create a network in Docker? A Docker network for both apps to talk to each other. I think that's something that we need. Docker compose. Okay, so no short answer, no extra steps. So it creates a default network. Okay, I mean, I like defining my networks explicitly. If you want explicit, yeah, I do want an explicit network, but okay. Yeah, I mean, give me, yes, let's name the network. Just to be explicit. And then if we push this code up, I think people will be happier with the Docker file. Because they'll be like, okay, at least they're trying to cover the details. Okay, there we go. Now we have a Rex network. But I guess Docker creates, see, I learned something. I forgot that Docker creates a default network, or I didn't know, whatever. I like naming them. That's what I always do anyway. Okay. I'm not entirely sure about its solution here, but I mean, I want to try to see how much this thing can do on its own. So let's say that this doesn't depend on backend for now, because I just want to build front end. And let's see what happens. Exited. Host not found. Okay, so it's looking for upstream, so it is looking for backend. Okay. Is that in the Nginx config? Okay. Got it. So it's like looking for it. Okay, cool. So yeah, let me not mess that up. It's actually expecting the backend to, I like that. I like that it's actually checking that the backend is there as part of the startup script. Ready for startup. Okay. Front end ready for startup. Let's see if this works. Local 5,000 API health. Is it 50 or 5,000? No, it's 5,000. Okay, what about 3,000? Where was the app? 3,000? I don't remember where the app was being served. Let's see. Looks like the front end 8080. Oh, okay. Oh, I missed that. I was really wrong. Aha. Okay, people. We are in business. Look at that. An hour in, and we've got a UI that comes up. Look at that. Very, very cool. Um, wow. Create a Rex, user ID, title category, description, media URL tags. Very neat. Your Rex with a refresh button, search Rex. Beautiful. Very, very cool. I'm going to pause there for 1 second because it's going to happen so fast you're not even going to realize it. And go. All right, friends. So this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool that we already have something that looks like it may actually work. So what happened was the UI came up and the back end looks like it also came up and sure did. Yep, yeah, it looks like it's running. It says it's a development server, but that's all well and good for now. Let's take a look at what features seem to be available already. And in order to look at the features, I'm not going to look at the front end. Oh. You've used up your free autocomplete request. So I did create a new account in order to do this video. So looks like I'm just going to have to turn off autocomplete, which is a little bit of a bummer, but maybe I will. I mean, I do kind of want to show what happens. I mean, you don't really need autocomplete. Yeah, let's see how far we can get without autocomplete. But now you know, folks. I mean, I started this account from scratch, so that's about as far as you can get with the free version, at least for autocomplete. So that means that it's no longer going to give me inline recommendations, but that's fine. I don't really need that. So let's see what we can do. So in order to see what features are available, I'm just going to check the API. See what features it gave me. And I basically want to test each of these. So load Brex. Okay, so it looks like load Rex is going to, that's this button here, I guess. Probably refresh. If I hit refresh, I guess is load Rex. That's what it'll do. Let's find out. Load Rex. Okay, so it goes create Rex. Create Rex calls load Rex. And get Rex calls load Rex. And list Rex calls load Rex. Search Rex calls load Rex. Okay, so I'm gonna try, not create yet. Let's just try a get list Rex. Okay, so list Rex. Okay, so this calls refresh list. So now we're actually looking at the code. And this is all, you can just go ahead and test this stuff, obviously, but I just like to know what button, what this button is actually doing that I'm hitting. So if I go refresh list, it's just going to go /API/Rex query string. Where query string is the user ID. Okay, or nothing. That seems fine. That seems fine. And that's this API right here, API/Rex. And then it just calls load Rex, which load Rex, if not data path exists, data path, okay. see what this does again. Loads. Okay, so load rex is really just going to load from the data path, which in this case, the data path is data rex, data/rex.json, which I think is right. So it's obviously not going to have anything in it, which is what we expect. So I'm going to inspect this, go to the network tab, and let's see, when I hit this refresh button, there we go, calls API rex, returns nothing. Okay, great. So didn't error or anything, so that looks good. So then if we create one, and I say my username is bonappetort, which is usually my username for everything, and I say best create a rex. So I'm just creating one rex, I guess, right now. Let's see how this works when I save. Validates a payload, and then I give a user ID, a title, a category, a description, a media URL, a tag. Okay, so if I say best Ethiopian food, and I make a category called restaurant, and I say because they are awesome. Oh, I guess it would be like the title is actually the thing. So this would be Masab. Montclair. It'd be cool if I put a geotag on it, but we'll talk about that later. So Masab is the best Ethiopian restaurant. And if I just said, masab.com, I don't know where it actually is, but I don't know what's their website. Great Ethiopian food. Masabrestaurant.com. Okay, sure. Masabrestaurant.com. Shout out. Cool. Yeah, this place is awesome. Go there if you live in New Jersey. Tags. Food. Oops. Favorite. Montclair, New Jersey. Okay, cool. What happens when I create it? Boom. Oh my gosh, look at that. It automatically refreshed too and gave me one. How cool is that? Wow. And when I click on it, it takes me to the link. Very cool. Very, very cool. So now I should actually be able to see that data here. Yes, it is. Yes, I can. There it is. So I have a little JSON store of this data right here, and that's really, really cool. So I like the way that this works as a JSON database so far. So I think I'm going to rock with that. But that's pretty neat. So just thinking of what I can do next. This is obviously all working pretty well. So what I'd like to do is what happens if now I go search Rex and I go, what are my friends recommending for food? And I don't restrict it and I don't use an LLM. It does say Anthony recommended this place. That's really cool. How did that actually work? So when I hit that button, sorry folks, now I gotta check this out. So when I hit that button that said search, What happened? It hit this, search Rex. Oh, wait, maybe not. There's a couple different searches. Search. It's actually this one, search Rex. Okay, so that's the section, search section, got it. Use LLM. Okay, so that submits, that's the button search results, right? Button, type, submit, search, wire search, search form. Okay, search form, that's this, got it. Okay, so the search form submit is here. Query, search user ID and whether or not to use the LLM, and it goes to API search. Cool, so now we check out API search. Okay, search Rex, cool. Body query, user ID, items. Possible filter by user first, great. Optional LangChain integration, also great. We don't have that yet, so what happens if we don't use the integration? Fallback, simple keyword split. Find the keywords, and then if item matches haystack. Interesting. Haystack. So we're going to join. Okay. Item is a dictionary. So we're going to get title, description, category, tags. Return all key and haystack for keywords. Results for I and item matches. Okay, so we're running a simple algorithm for. This is interesting. So this is what it implemented. Simple keyword split. Okay, so it gets all the keywords in the query. Item matches. Define item matches. Haystack. Return all. This is not something that I'm personally used to seeing. So I'm going to ask the LLM to actually describe to me this particular function, which is interesting. Let's see how it does. Tell me what's happening in the keyword split fallback code in search Rex. So once you get into the details of the algorithms that this code, this LLM is actually implementing, that's when you start to see like things where you're like, I don't know if I would have done it that way, or I don't know. And to be honest, Python is kind of my second language. TypeScript is usually what I'm working with. So occasionally I will see some Python and be like, I'm not sure if that's really the way that people do it. I don't read enough Python code to know, but I can write it. So let's see. So the reason I chose Python here instead of TypeScript is because it's a little more user-friendly, and I feel like if people are trying to get started in this world, it's usually what they hear about first and what they kind of reach for first. So for that reason, I think it's the most kind of widely applicable and interesting to everybody. Although, to be honest, I prefer TypeScript. It's a conversation for another day. If the LLM isn't used or fails, if lowercase is split the user's query on white space into simple tokens, right? Okay. Okay, into one lowercase string and checks it all. But is it loading from... If LLM and use query, yeah, we know that. If not keywords, simple keyword split. T? Where's T coming from? Huh. Oh, T dot lower. I see. For T and query split. All right, so we're splitting up the query. Haystack for K in keywords. Item matches keyword else items. Return JSONify query keywords results. I for I in items if item matches if keywords else items. Interesting. How could it not be actually searching? I don't see it actually loading the data in this. Item matches haystack. Yeah, that's all well and good. Return all. What's all? All is a oh, I'm not used to that. Okay, true if every item is an iterable. Okay, got it. Otherwise, false. Stops at the first faulty. Okay, got it. So that makes more sense now. Okay, in the search rex function, something I'm not understanding here. When is the JSON data loaded? When load rex is called at the start of search rex. Did I miss that? Oh, load rex. Oh my gosh, I totally missed that. Now it makes much more sense. Okay. Sorry, folks. I was just getting completely lost there. So there we go. We are calling load rex. Now it makes a lot more sense. Okay, so how is this search algorithm actually working? So it's doing a search item matches. So is it like an exact match or something? How is this? Describe to me how this search algorithm is actually working. Actually searching. Because it makes sense that this would be where the LangChain integration is. And we're doing an item matches here, but we're doing a return all K in haystack. So it's like an exact, I guess it's an exact match. Builds one lowercase string per item title description cabinet. Only if all keywords appear. Okay, yeah, so it's a combined logical and. Okay, got it. That's kind of what it looked like. I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding that properly. So it's literally an exact match. So I'm going to just make this a comment right here so I remember that. I don't know if that's ultimately how we're going to want it to work, but it seems okay for now. It's literally an exact match. So what does that mean? So does that mean if I... So if it exact matches anything on here. So if I did like food C, it wouldn't return anything. Yeah, right, because it has to be like literally food. Okay, cool. So that could obviously be a lot more fancy, but we're not going to worry about that right now. I get it. So we're doing exact matches, but ultimately pretty cool still. So let's see. Where can we go from here? Where can we go from here? Where can we go from here? So if I think back to the requirements that we were looking to implement, we can search. So we have some options here. We could build more into how the search actually works. But in order to do that, we would need a lot of data first in order for it to make any sense. So I'm trying to think about how we could possibly get a lot of data. We could use the AI to our advantage here to do that. So I'm just thinking about how we might be able to do that. Let's go to our README file and update it. So we did a couple things here. Well, we don't need a document. We already did. It's already in the README. So let's just say what is to do, right? We could create a lot of test data. So we can start actually implementing cool search features. If we wanted to do that, in order to do that, we would need a few user profile, like more, a lot of user profiles, and for all of those user profiles to have data. That would be a pretty cool thing to build. I think I have an idea about how we can do that, and that might be useful just so we can start actually creating a lot of data and interacting with it. So I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, and we will come back and maybe start working on that. Check. All right. So I just checked, folks, and we've been doing this for about 90 minutes or so. I think personally it's going pretty well. The fact that we already have working code and an app that is creating data in an hour and a half, even with all my incessant babbling, is pretty cool. So I'd love to keep going. I'm not sure if I'm going to break this into multiple parts or if I'm just going to go full on, really long part one. I guess we could probably set a couple goals for ourselves. That would be, maybe an appropriate thing to do at this point. So what do we want to get to in order to call it done for the first pass would be an interesting question to ask. So like I think I was saying before, it would be really interesting if we could create a lot of data to interact with right away. That would be fun. Right, because right now I could create something and that was cool. I just did. But if we spent some time creating a lot of data, it would be really fun to try to interact with it and see what comes out. And, if we really want to use AI, we would even use AI to create the data in the first place, which would be really, really cool. So I'm gonna say pretty optimistically that we can do that pretty quickly. I'm going to zoom through this. I'm going to make some executive decisions here. I might not explain myself entirely, but I think or I hope that you will see pretty quickly where I'm going with this. So just bear with me. This is kind of just as an engineer who's implemented these things before. This is kind of just what I think we will need next. So give me a chance here, and I think I'll be able to convince you pretty quickly. So here we go. I'm going to talk a little less probably in this part, but I will try to explain what I'm doing. So I'm going to give myself a better view here. And I'm going to go into, How should I do this? Maybe I'll try to just lean into using the AI, right? That's what we're trying to do. So I'm gonna say create a new button in index.html that does the following. Calls a new endpoint in app.py to create a new user, application user, and test data recommendations for that user. When a user is created, seed 100, let's start with 10. Seed 10 recommendations. For now, the recommendations can be hard-coded into the Python code and be the same for all users. Okay, create a new button in index.html that calls an endpoint to create a new application user and test data recommendations for that user. When a user is created, seed 10 recommendations. This should be good. I'll start with that. You'll see why. I wonder if eventually I'm going to get blocked from Cursor for just asking too many questions. I guess as a free user, I might have to come back to this video after I start paying them. I'll exhaust it. The title of this video will then be, here's how far you can get building an app entirely as a free user. But this thing is going off right now. It is cooking. All right, I mean, we're giving it a chance. It is just so tempting as a software engineer who actually knows how to write the code to be like, I could just write this code. But, when I've noticed that if you start leaning into this LLM stuff, you are pleasantly surprised with how good it is and how far it gets you pretty quickly. And you can still scratch that itch and write the code if you want to and change around the implementations or do it yourself, or that's always there for you. What I found is that if you just set your mind on building as fast as possible and using it to build as fast as possible, you still get the same satisfaction of solving problems. You still run into problems to solve, and it just sometimes, sure, you have to write the code, and sometimes the problems are just a little different, and you hit them faster because you have a little assistant. So, I'm not advocating for this necessarily. I think just setting your mind on building the most correct, safe, and efficient code is always the mindset. And when you're in a startup world like I am, it's always how fast can you do it too. It's never, at least where I come from, it's never you have infinite time to implement something. It's always how fast can you do it. So this is great for that. And if you know what you're looking out for, then you can make sure you're still safe. As Seth Godin said, I remember a couple months back, he said that drivers are more important than ever. Drivers, like, he's being cheeky, obviously, about, people driving AIs. That drivers and pilots, are more important than ever before, because that's really what we're doing is we're piloting. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm piloting this AI, not only literally in terms of driving it, but also figuratively in terms of trying it out, right? I encourage everybody to pilot it in both of those ways. More good software is always a good outcome. If it leads to more good software, I'm happy with that. Okay, it looks like our assistant has completed the task. See, when I have this little assistant writing code, I can go off on long rants. Isn't that a thrill? Isn't that a joy for everybody listening? It's not. Okay, added post seed user. Yep, creates 10 hard coded recommendations. Yep, skips duplicates for a by title. Okay, sure. Updated front end into seed sample recs. I like all of that. User ID is required. Sure. Why would I need to okay, it wants me to punch in a user ID. Okay. That's fine. If user already has items, we still add per request but avoid duplicating exact titles. Okay. And then it generates seed recs. Okay, here's some seed recs. Cool. Okay. I mean, this all seems fine to me. We're going to make this much more interesting soon. So let's keep review next file. That's fine. Review next file. Seed button. That's what we expect. Nothing unusual there. So that all, I'm pretty happy with that outcome ultimately. So I don't think I have hot reload on here yet. So let's just spin them up again. Starting to get interesting, right? We're actually starting to get some stuff. So check this out. All right, now if I refresh, now I have, if I pull in all of the current recs that there are, so I refresh, it's just me, right? There's just one, my Masab recommendation. So now if I said I want to seed a sample recs, okay, I have to enter a user ID first. So I'm going to put in Natalie. Seed sample recs. Now check that out. Now there are many more recs by Natalie, 10 to be specific. Isn't that cool? So we just created all of that data with one button click. And now if I hit Natalie again, it seeds more. And it looks like, did it do the same 10? Yoga mat. No, I think it doesn't repeat. Right, so it's not going to repeat them. It has a block on the repeats. But if I put a different person in, I'm going to get the same recommendations. Oops. From a different person, I think. Let's see. Now Johnny has, right, the same best sushi in town and the same yoga mat. Okay, great. So what it just did was it seeded Johnny and Natalie, and they both had the same recommendations, which is fine. I'm cool with that for now, because we are trying to get the basics. So now we can create a lot more data, which is really neat. So there's a couple different things we can do. If we wanted to, we could make the test data that we're creating more interesting by using the LLM, which would be pretty cool. It'd also be kind of expensive to keep querying the LLM. Expensive, you know. If you're in an enterprise context, it doesn't matter too much. You pay what you need to do prompting. But for right now, we'll try to minimize the amount of like literal cost. So we will get to prompt calling LLMs in this program soon. One thing that we could do is use them to make better test data, which is pretty neat. Or we could start using it to actually, you know, help us find better recommendations. But I still think that we're going to need a lot more data in order for that to be useful at all? So let's see. If we just think about the kinds of features that an app like this would probably have to have, well, we can already create a recommendation and add a bunch of tags. Let's see how the interaction piece works. So the search piece. So if I say, what are my friends recommending for shoes? If I just make it like real simple, shoes. I see that Johnny and Natalie both recommended classic white sneakers. This specific classic white sneaker. Okay, so that's moderately useful. A couple of things. So that means that Johnny and Natalie would already have to have made a bunch of these recommendations, or I would have to be following people who have made recommendations for these things, or I can include some wider search for like more people if I wanted to just know, like if I was like, oh, here's what Taylor Swift recommended or whatever, which is kind of the interesting portion of this from a like partnership product partnership perspective. It's an interesting thing there about how you can market products that you enjoy. So that would be a feature to like look up products from just the most followed people out on the platform. Another thing to do would be to connect it with Amazon or add some kind of product image, which is interesting. Maybe we should do that. That would be like probably one of the coolest core features, is to actually like not just add a product description like we are right now, but actually add the product from the perspective of like add the link to the website for that product, or add the Amazon link to that product. That would be pretty cool. I wonder if we can do that. So if I wanted to create a product, so I'm gonna expand out the create a product feature. That's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna add to it the ability to, let's say, actually link to Amazon. And I should be logged out of Amazon in this. Yeah, so this is just a public Amazon. We're not going to log in yet. No reason to. So, okay, let's think about this. Let's think about a product that I actually would recommend. Do I have anything around me right now? Oh, this is a good product. What would this be called? Hand drum. Small hand pan drum. This one, yeah. Which is the one that I've bought? It's this. This is it. Yeah, I think it's this one. Okay, great product. Love this thing. I've purchased a couple of these. Okay, great. So, cool product. I love it. I want to add to here now the actual link, but I don't just want the link. I want it to actually link to the product. So I want to say in index HTML, I'm going to try to make this as AI focused as possible. So if I just like add this whole thing to the context, I'm going to say add a feature to this app that when a user adds a product URL to Amazon specifically, that we go and fetch that product information from Amazon, including the photo. How cool would that be? The photo, and display it in the app. We should also store that Amazon product link in our data store so we can refetch later. How cool would that be? Let's let that tick away for a second. We're going to pause for a moment. All right, friends, we got a new cup of coffee now. Very important. I'm sorry, I know some people hate the sound of drinking, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I really need to stay hydrated, water and coffee both. All right, and not only that, we got some new code to review. Isn't that cool? Stepped away for a coffee break and new code to review. Again, I'm not advertising Cursor here, but I mean, it is a pretty sweet advertisement for them. So Cursor, hit me up if you got some partnership deal, or I don't know. I'm just a fan. Those guys, I think they're all guys, all the founders. They did an interview on Lex Friedman a couple years ago. Very cool. Still kind of, I think, set the tone and is still kind of the best overview of even current state that we're still dealing with or find ourselves in. Still worth watching that interview, and would love to hear from those guys again. They probably have more stuff out there. I just haven't really been looking. I've been in my own world, building my own stuff, but they're a good team. Cursor's a cool product. I hope it stays cool. Anyway, don't need to talk more about that specifically right now. Maybe in the future I'll use a different tool, like Claude or something, Copilot, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Back to the task at hand. I'm pretty impressed with how far we've gotten so far, but I mean, I would like to keep going. Let's see what we can do. So what did this do exactly? It added Amazon scraping support. And by the way, I'm not looking to do something skeezy with Amazon here. I'm looking to just scrape what's publicly available. The same thing you would see on their website. I'm not going to bombard their website. That's not what I'm looking for. I just want to scrape what's publicly available, and I actually want to see what they have available in terms of partnership for back-end development, if they have some kind of developer program. I'm not sure if they do, but that could be part of this product, right? I think if you've been thinking about this Rex product now that we've been working on, you can see that there's definitely some chances for affiliation, which is a cool idea for this product. And I don't know just what's available, if Amazon even just has a way to query the back end for their products, and if they allow you to do that. So that's something I'll learn through this, but I have no intention of screwing with Amazon. I want to do it the right way, if it's even possible. But for now, just querying their website for what's available publicly for a product is not anything to worry about, in my opinion. It's not nefarious. So let's just see how this did. Okay, so it added some requirements. Beautiful soup, I think we're all familiar with in the Python world, but let's just do it anyway. So soup for pip, I haven't used that in years, so yep, very well. Is it very well supported? I don't see. I'm not seeing any numbers on here. Release history? Okay, released very recently. Very good. And, I'm just doing, again, what I think are the obvious steps to take to protect yourself. A little paranoid, obviously, but just bear with me. What's their homepage look like? Cool. I love websites that still look like this, guys. Oh my gosh, I love this. It just feels so good to just see text and a white screen. It really should be black, but whatever. Okay. Got distracted. Requests. 412.2, is that there? Yeah, pretty close. Let's do 414.2. Why not? Crud. See, that's one of the things about these UIs. They're not, these IDEs, they a little buggy sometimes. But I think that might have been a button smash. Okay, 414.2, is that what I said? Yep. And requests. It's funny that I'd rather do a search up top, right, instead of actually just typing it in here. Okay, requests, import requests, release history 2325. Sure, why not? Be super up to date. Pun intended. All right. So it added some requirements. Thank you much. Then, all right, is Amazon URL. Okay, that seems, is that right? I'm gonna just, let's just say Amazon. That's the only Amazon that I know. So let's just do Amazon.com. I don't know what .to is. See, that's the kind of stuff I don't trust. I mean, maybe that's a perfectly valid Amazon link, but that's not one that I want to, I don't know. I gotta have to look at it. Okay, this seems fine, I guess. I guess I need a user agent. Header. So that's how it's gonna fetch the Amazon metadata. I guess I can get behind that. I mean, we'll see how it does. Like, that's, I don't know. Might be right. Sure. Let's find out. Let's see what else it gave us. Okay, so now if there is a media URL, it will fetch the metadata and append it. That is cool. I like that. Let's try it. Oh, I think there's another change to review. That's fine. Great. Here we go. Hot reload would be cool, but I mean, I'm not writing a ton of code. See how little I'm actually refreshing, and I'm writing a lot of code at one in a big swath and then just running it, which is cool. Classic development without the LLM and stuff, I feel like I'd be doing a lot more refreshing. And would need something like hard reload, but doesn't seem to really be a requirement for right now. Cool. Looks like we're in business. Let's bring up our app. Okay, so now if I actually tried to recommend something and put in like a proper Amazon link, let's see what happens. I'm gonna go media URL. This is gonna be instrument drum. My username. Title. Best hand drum for anyone. Instrument. This is so much fun, and it's in, and all of the notes are in one scale, so you can't play a wrong note. Good for all ages. And that's an honest review from me. Okay. So if I go create, now we have a link to Amazon. Wow, okay. That seems good. It actually created a link to Amazon. Let's see what it looks like in the data. Okay, media URL. Great. That seems good. And it gave me a link. That's really neat. It didn't give me like an image or anything. It'd be cool if it pulled an image. Can I make it pull an image? Let's try it. How does this work? Amazon image. So it's like trying to render an Amazon. Oh, looks like I didn't save that. Did I not? Oh. Maybe I didn't save that part. I think I might have to restart this. Because it looks like it tried to create an image. Render Rex item. Media. Yeah, okay. Just depends on what the data is that's getting returned. In this case, there's an Amazon block, Amazon Meta. Okay, but it's just a title. There's no, that's why it just says Amazon.com. Okay, there was no image. Cool. So we were missing something. Let's try again. So what happens if I try to create the same thing again? Media URL. And drum. Let's just do that. Let's be lazy. Okay. Hand drum, Amazon.com. Still doing the links well, but can't figure out the image. Okay, so let's work on that. I think the image would be really cool. I think that would be like a nice touch. And then we could probably leave it there for that feature for now. But I think image, everybody likes images. Prefers images, I would say. So, what is going wrong when we create an image? You know, again, I'm going to try to stick true to my plan to make this mostly AI focused. So let's let it do it again. I'm just going to give it the right context, which is the front end code and the back end code, and say when I create a Amazon product, a product with an Amazon link, the image is not saving properly. See rex.json, because rex.json has an example, like we see on the left here, of that thing being created. Itchy. So I guess if this is going to be the way we program from now on, I have to, what am I, have to talk in between or something? These in between prompts, I guess I have to tell jokes and stuff. It's going to be a problem. Not very funny. Maybe I'll play Denim Dennis music in the background. My band Denim Dennis. Check us out on Spotify. If you watch this long, maybe you'll like Denim Dennis. Maybe I'll play some of our music while this is going. There are really any more like me. Okay, so now it's going to try to improve the Amazon scraper. I mean, let's see. I'm really trying not to drive too much. I'm trying to drive just enough to let it do its thing. So we shall see. Now it's saying that data old hires. That's really strange. Wow, it added a lot of code. Okay. I don't love that it added this much code. I guess I'm going to have to go... yeah, when it adds this much code, I just have to go through it one by one. Sorry, folks. All right, let's see. Reuse JSON name safely inside function. Fetch Amazon meta URL. seems a touch unnecessary, do you think? I don't like that this is importing inside of here. We're going to leave this for now, or we're going to come back to this. This looks like something I'm going to want to refactor. Not too sure about that. This looks okay, I guess. Not sure what these couple are on the end. Should know what I'm talking about. Accept language, cache control, no okay. This all seems fine. Timeout 12, allow redirects. Any media type. Any media type is fine. I wonder if I can restrict executables though. I think this is actually fine. I think it's actually fine. I just didn't recognize that header. Okay, we're good. You can keep that. Product title or product. So like this is where like I'm hoping that the code that's in the LLM like knows what Amazon's, you know, front end HTML looks like. Like this is where if they get this wrong, you know, we're gonna have to actually look at it ourselves, which is fine. But I could just, you know, see if it gets it right. So, and all it's doing is parsing what comes back from Amazon. Yeah, just parsing it. Okay, so let's see how it does. And if it doesn't do well, we can actually use the LLM to dig into this particular problem. So let's just see if it can get the source image. Because then, you know, we can always look, we're going to look at the network tab and see what it actually looks like. So that is fine. We're happy with the code that this created for now. I'm thinking that I may want to save this soup, which is going to sound funny to anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, but we made a beautiful soup object here. I think I'm going to want to save this soup, if you will. Save the soup object, that's funny, in app.py. That comes from Amazon. Well, I might not need to, I guess, if it gets it right. So let's find out. If I just go me, best hand drum again, instrument, create. Oh my gosh, it worked. How cool is that? Wow. Sorry, everybody. That was just very, very cool. I am incredibly impressed with that. It did it. It saved the image. Super duper neat. Wow. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. So, what else can we do? I'm pretty happy with that personally. I'm thinking, now I'm just kind of dreaming here. It would be cool if we could actually search products from here, like for search Amazon products. That would be one thing. It would be cool to have them organized by category. That would be probably the next thing to do is organize them by category and then probably have some notion of a feed, you know, where you can actually like get a continuous stream of like the latest recommendations and stuff. And then you immediately get into like, could this be, you know, an app like an app like Instagram style where you just open it up and you're like, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. You just like start swiping and you see people's recommendations, and then you could do videos, like little video clips. Could like create a rec, do like a little video of it. Could do hashtags. There's just so many things you could do with this kind of a thing. So I'm just wondering what's worth doing right now to make it kind of cool and useful. So we can already create a lot of data, which is cool. We can already search for stuff, which is cool. We can have multiple profiles. It would be neat to make like a feed. But then would it make more sense to... I wonder if it would make more sense to turn it into like a mobile style app. It probably reacts pretty well already. How does it look on a mobile? Let's see. See how it looks on mobile. Sorry, folks. I haven't done this in a little while. I don't remember. I know I can see this somewhere. Anybody who knows is probably screaming, it's over here, it's over here, it's over here. Where's the thing? Everybody knows what I'm looking for, too. I'm looking for, yeah, that's it. All right, cool. So there's what we look like on mobile. Right? Is that a mobile? iPhone 12 Pro. Yeah, cool. Close enough. iPhone 12 Pro. So, all right, let's like turn this into, what's the most useful thing to do right now? Is it more useful to like turn it into something that would actually be worth using as an app, like UI wise, or it would be cool to have a feed? So here's what we're going to do for now. What we have so far, this is going to be the admin panel. This is going to be the back end of the app. Now we're going to work on what actually could be the user-facing portion. So we're going to put all of this that we have currently into a tab called admin, or it could just be think about that. Let's try not to make it too complicated. But essentially, I want to give us another view where we can just work on having something be like a proper feed, a proper recommendation. And then there's a question of, well, should you immediately go and put it in something like React Native in order to turn it into a proper app? Which my response self, if I'm evaluating that question, is I think it may make more sense to build it out as much as we can with basic HTML properties until we prove that we need some kind of framework like that. And we're going to, in order to have to do this on like a mobile, like a proper mobile, which we're going to want to. Okay, that's enough of that. We're going to build something. So we have the ability of creating lots of data, which is cool. So now what I think I want to do is I want to show all of that data in a feed format. All right. Bear with me for a second, everybody. I'm going to do something, and we're going to see if it works. So I'm going to pop over to our index.html, and I'm going to go... I don't need that soup object anymore. Forget it. We don't need it. We'll look at it if we need it. Hopefully, we never need to look at it. This is what I'm hoping, right? Is I'm hoping I can focus on the big problems and not the little problems. Because otherwise, like I hope any engineer out there has also felt at this point that we have accomplished a lot and like added a lot of value from this LLM product. Because I don't know about you all, but it would have taken me many more hours to create what we've created so far by hand. But since you know what to do, you can create a lot faster. You can paint a lot faster. So let's keep going. Let's keep painting. It's fun. It's fun to paint quickly and have it work and not have to beat yourself up over the details. But you'll get to the details eventually, you know. If your system gets complex enough and it actually works and people are using it, you will have to deal with the details regardless. So what's wrong with being able to build faster? That's my take on the matter. Not that I don't like programming, because I do. But I like working products better. I like things that I can build better. Things that I can build fast. You know, or I like building fast better than I like getting into the code if I don't have to, you know. Okay, it's enough of that. So we were going to add a new tab to this view called Feed. Feed will be its own screen that will eventually be displayed on a phone, on a mobile device. Here are features of the feed. It will pull, for now, this is just basics for right now, right? It will pull, it will query every product from the database ordered by recently created. And you could be like, oh, it's only people that you follow or whatever. Worry about that later. Product from the database ordered by recently created. Display one. It's really querying one product at a time, but we could paginate by 10. Let's see what it comes up with for that. We should be able to paginate it. See if it could implement basic pagination. We'll see. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. Just making sure we don't query everything at once. Display one product at a time in the feed using the picture to take up the whole screen. The product picture. Take up the whole screen. Or render a default image. And then we're going to say have the scroll be up, down, like TikTok. So I want to see how much it can come up with when I just do that. That's a pretty, you know, as a human, I think that's a pretty, like, most people know what I'm talking about when I say those kinds of things, right? I want it to be up, down, scroll. I want it to be paginated. I want it to be a feed. You know, it knows what a feed is. I want it to be mobile friendly. It knows what that is. So it's just enough to push it to where any less detail might be a little too vague, but it's just enough to maybe get something useful. So it's going to add sorting and pagination. That's what I asked. That's great. It's going to add a feed and tab section. full screen snap layout. Yep, it's going to implement JS fetch. Okay, and lazy loading. That's what we want. That's tech jargon for those who don't understand. That's fine. Don't worry about it. And then styles for full, viewport cards and overlay. Cool. So, and it's using all basic HTML for this, which is what we want. We'll get into fancier components later when we want to really make it look good. So let's, because we just added a lot of code, let's go through it by hand because it's just the right thing to do. So it added to app.py. This is our API. So here now it's ordering page string limit. So here it's implementing our pagination for us, which is great. I just think it's great that I don't have to implement it. I don't know if anyone else agrees, but I just think it's great. I can just check it and be like, yep, page, or it's none. Sure, I don't know about. I can always go back and re-implement this code or use other APIs. I mean, as long as it's right for now, I'm trying to just see how much of this product I can build, right? So I can always come back and refactor this stuff, and I probably would. I don't even know if I like this, to be honest, but we're going to keep it for now. It's not dangerous. Date time. Okay. Okay. Sort. Reverse order descending. Yep. So this is all fine. Pretty chill. Couple of buttons. So here it is adding all of our HTML. That all looks good. Search section. Data. Okay, it's giving them all data tabs. Feed. Okay, let's see how this comes up. That's none of that's dangerous or anything. It's grouping these all by data tab, which is interesting. Okay, and it's giving us some new CSS to support that. I like that. And that's about it. Is that all it really needed? That's pretty sweet that that's all it needed just to implement the pagination. Man, it is super cool how fast you can write code with this, fellas. I'm saying fellas. I'm saying fellas lovingly, obviously. I mean ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Refresh. Now we have a couple different tabs. Cool, cool, cool. Let's see what they all look like. I can go to My Recs, Create, My Recs, Search, or Feed. And look at that. A big black box. A big black box. What does that mean? Okay, I can drag it though, right? No? What happens if I swipe? Nothing? That's funny. It's a big black box. All right, so let's do some investigation. So what happens when I click on these different things? When I click on feed, let me refresh. Okay, so if I click on feed, where's the request? Okay, API rec. So that returns all the recs. That's cool. So I mean, it makes sense that like this one, none of these have images, but is it? I don't know if it's actually scrolling through the way that I'm thinking. Like, is this actually a scroll? Probably not, right? Responsive. This is kind of interesting. So I can't tell if it's actually, maybe it is actually going to the next one each time. It's hard to tell because none of these have images. So that doesn't help. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna blow away everything in our database, literally. So that way there's nothing there. And restart it. Actually, I might not even need to restart it because there might just be nothing there now. It's probably still in the container. Okay. Let's see if I restart it now. If all the data is gone, because I just want to make one object and I want it to have an image. I'll just make it a little easier for right now. So this should just have nothing. Yeah, just nothing. Okay, good. So now if I create something, let's say best hand drum. I love this hand drum. And media URL. Instrument drum. Instruments. Cool. Create. Good. Now if I go to my Rex, look at that. Now I can see the one that I made. And if I go to feed, maybe I have one now. Here it is. Doesn't look like it's rendering the image, but it does look like it pulled it back. So it looks like there's something to investigate here. So obviously we know the image does exist because we see it on the other page right here under my Rex. Okay. So now we're going to see feed container, data tab feed, feed status, feed section. Okay, so there's nothing actually in here, but this is the feed container. Feed. Where's the feed actually defined? Class, feed hidden, feed container, feed container. Huh. Okay, so it's probably in here that it's actually used, right? There we go. That's what I'm looking for. We're going to keep all for now. Feed image for render feed card. So we're going to pull that title and we're going to fall back to no image. I feel like this code may have not been saved. I think I may have missed this. This is part of the downside of using Cursor is that sometimes you're just not, it's just hard to see that you got everything. I think I got everything now though. In terms of code review, let's see if it changes anything. It doesn't look like it. It really should retain the URL when I hit refresh. We're gonna fix that soon. Okay. So the data that came back did, I think, last time we saw include the Amazon meta and the image. So when we load that render feed card, item Amazon image, so that all looks good. We're gonna get that stuff. We're gonna return that, and we're gonna render that. And that all looks, that looks good. It's not even using the right fallback image, which is super strange. Let's inspect this element for a second. Inspect. Feed container. It's kind of like nothing is in the feed container. Feed card. Render feed card. HTML before end load feed page. Let's see if this can figure it out. I'm going to say loading the feed page just renders a black box. Let's see what it thinks of that. So it renders content immediately. First feed load when switching to the feed tab. I mean, that sounds good. I guess that's not what it did before. Load feed page. Weird that it was just a black box. I think that it seems like it was missing grabbing, feed status. Is that right? No, yeah, that's right. Feed status. So it should be grabbing feed status and dropping in loading until this comes back. Let's see what it does. Load feed page. Okay, sure. I'll give you another shot. Make sure this doesn't cache anything. Yeah, it looks good. I mean, if we can get a proper feed working, we're like well on our way to something usable, which is pretty awesome. Maybe I can commit up the code like this and maybe leave this as a part 1. I mean, I'm trying to think of how it would be cool to leave it as a part 1. Like, at least leave something. Oh, wow, it works. Wow. Look at that. Best hand drum. Woo. Wow, super cool. Wow. Sorry, everybody. I was just so impressed by what we just did. Yes, I said we, by the way. I think the environment is very important for the ability to create. So the fact that this environment included you, the viewer, that I was trying to perform for, I do think that we are part of that project together. So I do mean it when I say we. Wow. I'm going to take a pause for another second, and these don't look like anything to you. I'll just snap my fingers and video magic, edit it to the next step. But what I'm going to do is think about what I want to do to take this to the finish line today. And it may have something to do with leaving you, the viewer, the ability to actually clone this code yourself and run it. To which I'm wondering what would actually be the most useful code for you to run on your side, which would be fun. I mean, this would be pretty fun already. It's pretty interesting, and I can push it up with no data, so you can run it yourself. However, trying to think of something that could make it even cooler. Maybe a feature that like uses Amazon's API to like actually look for more like highly rated products, like if nothing comes back. Like, yeah, maybe the ability to make categories. I think what would first be cool is, like we said, we wanted to create a lot more products to interact with at first. So maybe I need to make a list of products or something that I recommend, which would be pretty neat. And kind of like start the first profile in a way. That'll be kind of cool. That'd be one thing to do. Another thing would be, I wonder, does Amazon do, because if Amazon does login, like offers SSO login, then you would be able to connect your account with Amazon and then maybe provide the user like a prompt up that says like, hey, you bought this product recently, like, do you recommend this product? Like, what is Amazon Marketplace developer portal like? Amazon Seller Partner API. Accelerate growth with apps. Amazon sellers use apps built with seller partner APIs to automate their businesses. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. So if I could create a developer account, what's like actually available? Let's see. Let's check the documentation. Welcome to the Selling Partner API documentation site where you can find multiple resources. You want to create applications for selling partners. Yeah. And then, okay, and then there's a whole bunch of examples and directories and documentation and cool stuff. Okay. App integrations, code samples. I mean, this is the idea. So I guess I'm curious what their SSO is. Like how, like can somebody log in? Man, this really looks like a whole thing, doesn't it? And I feel like this is going to be a whole video in and of itself. How to build an Amazon selling partner application. Oh gosh. Yeah, I think we're going to have to leave this out for now, but I'm just wondering, I mean, let's see what Cursor says. What's that? Let's just do an ask, not an agent, but just an ask. Does Amazon offer a way to log in via SSO through your Amazon account for a registered app that wants to integrate with Amazon customer data? Let's see what it says about that. I'm curious. Oh, provider was unable to, the security token is invalid. Oh, that's super interesting. I think I'm using the wrong, sorry folks, I think I was using the wrong model. Oh. Sorry about that. I think I was using the wrong model and it should be good now. Yeah. So yeah, let's find out. I'm not actually sure if Amazon offers such a service because I'm thinking another thing that would be cool with this is the ability to say, hey, you bought this product. Do you recommend it? Like, and add it to your recommendation. Okay, yeah. Amazon does provide Amazon login with Amazon. Okay. You must integrate Amazon Pay, seller partner for seller related data, Amazon advertise for advertising, Alexa skills, buyer info relevant to payments with consent. Okay. Okay. Each program has Amazon does not expose retail purchase history or general customer data to third-party apps. Each program has strict scopes, policies, and approval requirements. Okay. So we're going to skip any Amazon direct integration for now, but that's something cool to consider. I am going to take a pause for a second and think about how we're going to wrap this up for the first part, which I think maybe this will have multiple parts, but I'll think about that, and I'll see you back in 1 second. All right, friends, we're back. So I've been thinking about how to wrap up this video. It's getting pretty long at this point. It's pretty cool. I'm happy with it, but I'm trying to figure out how to put a pin in it and say, hey, you know, we're done for the day, and we're gonna come back and maybe do some more. There's basically two options the way I see it. We could either try to deploy this sucker, so that way, you know, we could actually have like a working app, and then we could be like, title of the video could be like, I deployed an app in blah 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 hours with AI only. That would be cool too, but I think realistically, if I actually want to make this into something that could work, which I kind of do, at this point, it's like maybe only a couple more days of effort and you'd have like a fully like functional, worthwhile thing here. So if I think of it through that lens, I'm like, all right, let's take my time and kind of do it the right way. Baby, you can do it. Take your time, do it right. So if I'm gonna do that, then I'd probably go more for like sustainability. So in order to get to something sustainable from a code perspective, I think one thing that would be cool, instead of working on deploying it right now, that might be for the next video, or maybe something I do offline, would be if you pulled this in and ran it, like if I want to be able to post this to GitHub, So if you on your end pulled this in and ran it, what would be the coolest thing for you to look at, like on your computer? And it wouldn't be that neat if it was just like, oh, here's an empty database. That's only kind of cool. But if that database had like a lot of stuff in it, that would be neat. So I was thinking about maybe we could find like a data set, like if I found a data set of like 5-star reviews, let's say I was going to build a data set for this app, right? What would be the data set I would need? Well, all this app is people and their recommendations, and then, possibly some search functions and AI and stuff, fun stuff on top of that. So I would just need to start with I guess if I had like a list of 5-star reviews, right? Because what is a recommendation if not a 5-star review? So like if I just want, I wouldn't do this if I was going to actually productionize this app, obviously, but if I just wanted something fun to play with, I could pull in, a big list of reviews, maybe even only 5-star reviews, and then just create recommendations for each of those reviews, and then use that as something to query on and have some fun with. So I'm going to try that out. And if I can get that working, I think that would be a cool place to end it for today. Because then, hypothetically, if you wanted to, you could pull this in and run it yourself and get an interesting result locally. And then who knows, maybe we turn it into an open source thing or something. If someone creates a PR against it, who am I to say no, right? All right, let's get into it, and we're going to try to make this the home stretch. So we're going to use our trusty assistant here. Maybe start like a new thing. And I'm going to say, is there a data set, publicly available free data set, preferably updated, updated often, that is a large sample size of Amazon reviews. It would be even better if it was only 5-star reviews. That's all I need for now. And I think you'll see where I'm going with this in a second. All right, Cursor's going to ask me if it's okay to do a search. It is. It looks like Hugging Face may have a data set for this, which would be sweet. Thank you, Hugging Face. Another great software project to shout out. So I'm thinking if we got a nice fat data set in here and made a script to load it up, then your feed would actually be fun because it would actually be real products. And you could technically, we could literally build the whole app just around a data set that's provided by Hugging Face. That would actually be pretty, yeah, I mean, that would work out well. Let's see if that works. Oh, it's still, 100 million reviews? Is that real? I don't even know if I want to put 100 million reviews on my computer. What? waiting for approval. It doesn't look like Cursor's search functionality is very good from what I've seen. Anybody have any experiences with that? Dang. What the heck? It's just trying to do a search? Ugh, just stop this. Stop this. I'm just going to literally drop this into Brave's search. Why am I doing this to myself? Ugh, body's starting to talk to me. Can't program for too long, you know? Okay, here we go. Here's a Hugging Face data set. User reviews. Okay. Okay. Cool. From datasets, import, load, dataset. Okay. So here's what we're going to ask the AI to do. We are going to ask it. So I'm going to make a scripts directory. Bear with me for a second. I'm going to say load reviews. What's the name of it? It's like Macaulay or something. Macaulay Lab. Load. Load Macaulay Lab. Say load Macaulay reviews. Okay. .py. Okay. So here we're gonna say create a Python script that downloads this data set into the data directory. Let's see how that does. I want it to dynamically load, and then I want a script that converts it into our data model. But I want to start by just, it downloads it. Create downloader script, add required dependency, datasets, Hugging Face. Yeah, that sounds right. But I want it to be dynamic. Like I want it to not, I don't want to store it all if I don't want to store it all, if that makes sense. I only want to do it. I mean, I'm not used to working with Hugging Face, so this is like it's like a new kind of thing for me. All right, so let's see what this implemented. Let's just keep it for now. From data sets, okay. Download it. Categories split, only 5-star. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know it had that. So export iterable to JSON without open, only 5-star. Okay. Download Amazon reviews. So what functions are here? It's just that. Def main. Okay. So now we have a script to download it to data. And you can add an optional directory or category or a data set split to load default train. That's interesting. Okay. So it's a training set. 5-star only, no streaming. Limit. All right. That seems comprehensive. More than even than I expected. Load dataset, dataset iterable. For each category, get a raw review. Safe category, replace. Okay. Okay, so then it's gonna create a category JSON L file. JSON L. Okay. I mean, I guess these are all valid requirements. Okay, that's fine. I think I need a Docker container to run this script now, which is fine. Let's get a definition of a JSON L file. Not as familiar with those. I think I've heard of that, but JSON lines, one valid JSON object per line in a plain text file. Ah, okay, cool. I don't really want to run this script right on my computer here. I'd rather run it in the Docker container. So, I think I might just take this whole thing and just put it in the back end instead. We can get rid of this scripts. I don't really want too many scripts if I don't need them. I'd rather have it run here. Oh, sorry, folks. I'd rather have it run in the back end and create an endpoint for it. So here's what we're going to have the AI do next is create a endpoint in app.py called load large review data. What do I want to call it? Load Macaulay data. This endpoint will call the download Amazon reviews. Oh, it actually had it. Download Amazon reviews function and convert the output to a type that matches rex.json. Store the images and the Amazon links for each product and use the username to create a Rex user ID. Let's see. We're really going to try to wrap this up quick, but I'll be impressed if it can do all this. So just reading the output that the that cursor is providing. It's pretty good. That's pretty close to what we want. And my plan for the end state of this is to just provide you all a link to GitHub where you can run this yourself. I think that'd be pretty cool. Okay, so changing app pie. What are we doing to it? I'm gonna close some of these up for now. We're almost there, folks. This is going to be pretty neat. This is going to be worth it. This is going to be worth it. Adds a new Flask endpoint. Yeah, that's what we want. It's taken a second to give me the actual output. Let's check the outline. Oh. No outline. That's weird. Huh. Strange. No outline. Okay, here we go. Finally. Load Macaulay. Download a small batch from blah blah blah. Limit 200. Sure, that's fine for now. Get limit if none 200. Download it. Fallback. Okay. Output. Data path parent. Trigger download streaming into data. I like that. Train 5-star only. Yes. Okay, so it creates Amazon reviews. Pick image from review. Build Amazon URL. Great. Map indirects items. Perfect. I think this is very promising, folks. And I think that actually might be it in terms of what it needed. Maybe it added something. Should have added something to index. Add to index.html a button to load this data. So if this works, I should be able to pop it open, hit this load button, go to the feed, and instantly see like reviewed products. And what a great way to end it. What a great way to end it if that's the case. There we go. That's all we needed. Yes. And then I assume let's say add that to app.js. And I hope at this point everybody kind of agrees, especially the software engineers out there, of the value of these tools. Like how fast I'm able to do that. I don't know how. I mean, maybe somebody is just faster than me when it comes to implementing this stuff, but I don't think I could really do it much faster than having this AI do it and just checking the output and making sure that it makes sense. Like that just, I don't know. If you know what you're looking for, it really makes it pretty simple. So let's see what happens. We're going to keep an eye on this this folder right here because that's where we're expecting the data to actually load into. But we're still running this back end here. And notice that I haven't even I was saying that this was going to be like an AI app, and I haven't even made an OpenAI integration yet or anything. I think I will. I think that will be the next step, but it's pretty cool already. So we'll get there. Obviously, we used AI to build it, clearly. And I just want to make clear also, and I'll type this out in the description, that by no means is this production ready code. There's still, and we could go through that if we make this into a series where I continuously do this. We'll build out tests, etc. So like there's a whole bunch of stuff here that would never fly in a production context. So don't in any way think that this is production code. Disclaimer. Use at your own peril. But it'll be open source. I'll push it up so you can play with it. So let's see what happens if I go ahead and just smash the load reviews button. Error. Okay. Categories books. So it requested categories book, 5-star only, true, limit 200. Okay, all good. Let's see what actually happened in the back end. Hard to say. I don't have any logs. Just got a 405 not allowed. Interesting. Okay. And I'm assuming that if I go to data, there's just nothing there. And this didn't, make anything. Okay. So what happened? What happened? Not allowed. We're going to add some logging on this side, on the app Python side. Load Macaulay data. We're going to add some logging here. Trying to think about, was that our categories limit 5-star only? You know what? I mean, let's use our philosophy here and let the AI do it. So I'll say this, and index HTML. We received I'll add app.js there as well, a 405 error when fetching review data. There isn't anything more useful here, so I think that's yes, that does make sense. Reverse proxy only allows API. Cool. Let's do that. Good. And for those who didn't catch that, there's probably an Nginx config that only allows routes to a certain route path that I wasn't following. It's a detail, but that's just one of the things that comes with building these apps that you gotta know. Okay, so we're gonna load. That looks like it worked. Oh, closer. 500, different error this time. So let's see what happened. Internal server error. That. Okay. See if we can find a log. Permission denied. Okay, permission denied. So this looks like an issue with the Docker file permissions. Let's see, Docker file, Docker compose. Looks like we have an issue in the Docker file permissions for writing to the data folder, which makes sense. Let's add the backend and front end Docker file. File backend, front end. Yep. So it's just gonna change permissions in one of the Docker files, most likely, just so our app has the permission to write to this directory. Okay, non-root user. That's fine. Ensure ownership. So it's creating a cache directory. We need a cache date. We need a cache for Hugging Face. That's fine. I can get behind that for now. Can optimize that later, perhaps. And then I think we are good to restart. We're almost there, folks. If we can get this to work, we've really accomplished something. I believe that. I'm going to be tempted to implement one more feature. I can feel it already, but we'll see. We've really been doing this for a while. This is just me waiting for Docker to build. Okay, almost there. Welcome to the world of software engineering. I'm also in the background checking my hard drive memory to make sure I don't run out of memory in the middle of this broadcast here. Okay, we're up and running again. Refresh, load Amazon reviews. 500 error again. Server error. Let's see. What happened that time? The repository contains custom code which must be executed to correctly load the data set. You can inspect the repository content at blah. Trust remote code equals true to allow custom code to be run. Ugh, is that really how you have to do it? Oh, and of course it doesn't even link to anything. That page literally doesn't link to anything. I don't want to allow custom code to be run. And just for reference sake, I'm going to that link and I'm not seeing anything. Oh, I see. So we need to run this custom code. Trust, you really have to trust remote code true? That makes me a little nervous. Is it common to trust remote code when loading Hugging Face datasets? Should I modify my Docker permissions first? That just makes me a little uncomfortable. Anytime someone's executing code that I don't know what it is, makes me a little uncomfortable. But maybe I'm just not used to using Hugging Face. First. Because it's probably just going to run some Python code that needs to run to load the data. But as long as it's a trusted source, I guess. Don't blindly trust remote code. Yeah, right. Preferred data only loads. Yes, Titan Doctor. Okay. Yeah, so I don't want to... Okay, so there's got to be another thing that you can do instead of doing that. I don't want to trust remote code true. Load item from metadata. How do I load Hugging Face data without trusting remote code execution? I really don't like trusting. You're literally saying that you're trusting remote code. No, I don't like that. Sorry, Hugging Face. I don't care if I trust you or not. Use built-in loaders with data files, no code exec. Okay, defaults to false. Keep it that way. Okay. Okay, I like this. Set env to forbid remote code. I'm probably gonna do that. And then stream this with no remote code. Okay. Downloads, then loads locally. Still no remote code. Okay. What to avoid? Replace the current load dataset name raw with direct. Yeah, okay. And streaming. Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna stream it. Execute the direct stream solution in this. And it's already copied, I think. Okay. Gzip files. Do not trust remote code execution. Sorry, it's not remote code, it's whatever. Do not trust code execution from the freaking packages. That's just bad practice. But I guess that's what they do in the Hugging Face world. No thank you. Which, to be honest, if you're running in a Docker container, you can mitigate this risk, but if it's not necessary, I would only do it if it was absolutely necessary, and then I would make sure the Docker container was locked down in every which way I could think of. Okay. Load data set. But this is like a just load data set from data sets. Okay. I'm not trusting any remote code execution. Okay. Let's give it a shot. Thanks for bearing with me through that, everybody. That's part of the job, is making sure that you're not writing dangerous code, right? Like that could be argued to be our first priority, is just making sure that what you're writing is safe. Like it's even worse to be incorrect and safe than correct and unsafe. So here we go. Back to Rex. Load Amazon reviews. Oh, another 500. Okay, here we go again. Let's see. Unable to find. Okay, so it actually seems like it is not the right URL now, which seems like something we can fix. So, where did we put our URL for? Here we go. We're going to see what this actual gzip file is called. Files and versions. Benchmark. Okay, here we go. Raw, meta, all, beauty. Let's see. Raw meta musical instruments, Parquet. I mean, it would be cool to do this in Parquet instead. So let's do this. Let's copy a clean link to this. Copy download link. Okay, copy download link. And I'm going to change this to a Parquet implementation. Here is the link to Parquet file. If you don't know what Parquet is, don't worry about it. It's just another data format. I'm going to copy the download link here. Yep. So I'll say here's the download link. So now it should read the Parquet file and stream from there. And hopefully we're on our way to working here. Yep, Parquet file, no remote code. That's what we want. Streaming rows and exporting JSON-L and data. Then we want it to load into our data format. We'll make sure it's doing that. I'm not sure if it's doing that. We're still just going as fast as possible here. Safely. 5-star, okay, that's all just some logic. That's cool. There's probably the URL that we want. It's just a Parquet file. Can't even click on it. Yep, clicking on it does take, yeah, wow, that's exactly right. Cool. I don't know why I was surprised about that, but that is exactly right. Keep streaming. Yep. Target. Good. Save. JSON-L. Cool. I don't know if it's going to convert it to our model yet, but let's just say, hey, that doesn't matter for right now. I don't know what all these are. Can I delete this? I'm going to delete this .cache file. Okay. So we're keeping, and we're running again. Say it again, but we're almost there, folks. I hope we can make this work. It'd be really cool. It's the final stretch either way. I think I lost our app. What did we say it was? 8080? There we go. Oops. Okay, here we go. Seed sample. Load Amazon review, sorry. Loading, loading, loading. Okay, wait, look at that. There it is. It looks like it's loading. Oh, it's still loading. Okay. Huh. I mean, according to this, it's still going. Let's see what the back end looks like. Oh man, it would be nice if we had some logs or something. So it's streaming it right now, I guess, to this file, which doesn't show anything yet. Export iterable to JSON-L. Okay. Still chugging along, huh? Error. No downloaded review files found. Okay. That's unexpected. No loaded review files found. No loaded review files found. Is that an error that came like right from here? No loaded. No loaded review files found. No downloaded review files found. Okay. .parquet export.jsonl so it can find and ingest the new file your loader created. Interesting. So it doesn't look like it was able to download it. I'm wondering if I should just download it. I mean, it's a public data set, right? So I can just download it and upload it to the, like, is it a really big file? Can I just literally, what happens if I just download it? See how big this file is. I'm gonna open that off screen here. I mean, that's pretty small. I think I can just maybe just literally put it in the data set for now. I'm just gonna put it in here. I mean, it's not my data, it's their data. They made it publicly available, so it shouldn't be an issue. I'm just gonna keep that here. And I'm gonna change this to change the load function to load the Parquet file in data slash, copy this name. Okay, so it's just going to load that function. It's going to load that instead. And then we're going to try to get it to convert into our data model so we can show it. And then I'm hoping we can end it there. If no Parquet URL, join. If no Parquet URL, remove the logic for providing a Parquet URL. We don't need that right now. I can put more effort into this later, but I'm getting tired at this point. But I would love to get to something working here. If we can just get this file loaded, we would be able to see some cool stuff. And that would kind of really make this feel complete. So for now, we're going to remove that. Okay, good. We're just going to keep that for now. Anything else? Reviewing. No, I think we're good. App backend requirements. Are these legit changes? What is this? Sorry, friends, I'm not exactly sure when this got introduced. Can't tell if this looks correct or not. I'm going to reject all of these. It looks like this. Let me see. Does this look right? Yeah, this looks right. I thought we accepted these already. I'm not sure why this is here. Kind of want to just reject all of these. Unless they're just already implemented. I think they're actually just already implemented. Why is this? All right, let's see what happens. Current state. Need to see some Rex. I need some Rex. Come on, man. Need some Rex. Let's see it. No, not that one. Loading. Alright, just did something. Still loading. If I gotta look any closer at this, we're gonna have to pick this up next time. If I gotta look into why it's not actually loading the parquet data correctly, that'll be a whole thing. We're so close. No items parsed from downloaded reviews. Alright, well, let's see. See what it can tell us. No items parsed from downloaded reviews. Error message. Oh, Masabe. And yeah, like I keep thinking to myself, like, yeah, I could dive into this and check out what's going on, but like, can it figure it out? It gets pretty close, you know? So we're loading a data set. Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to export to a file with this name. And then it's trying to run load dataset parquet from the load dataset library. Yeah, I mean, that all seems fine. Sharing false, sure, why not? Okay, and it's gonna save it in a JSON L. Okay. Seems good. Okay, so it thinks that maybe it's reading the data incorrectly. So let's see. It might be actually parsing the data incorrectly. That could be true. Now we're really in the details. This is the part where everybody goes, oh yeah, I could build this app, but I never actually did it. I had this great idea, but I never actually built it. This is the part that they don't want to wrestle with, So the intention of this is to show you the real stuff. That way you might actually get to see something working. Got to deal with the real problems. I have a feeling this thing might be right about it parsing. Yeah. We got no items parsed again, which means we must be looking for the wrong fields. Let's see. Let's make sure we are actually looking at a good data set. I mean, I'm pretty sure we are. Oh, you know what? This says raw meta. Was I looking at raw meta? Maybe this was only meta and not the actual data set. Let's see. Benchmark. This is the big guy here. This is what we want. SN2 category JSON. This is what we want. A nice big file, right? So let's see. Download. Put that in, sure, downloads directory for now. We're gonna move that to here as well. So if I move that to here in data, and I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna get rid of Parquet for now. It's too, I don't feel like dealing with it. Maybe I can get away with not using Parquet for now, you know? And then if we gotta come back to that later, it's fine. This is really just for a test, so I'm not trying to go crazy. It's very large. Let's open it anyway. I gotta see what this thing looks like. It's gonna be very large. That's fine. Let's see if it crashes my computer. As into category.json. Invalid string length. Ugh, shoot. Man, this is much more difficult than expected. Maybe that's just too big of a file. What does the README say about this? Those are all the categories and as into categories. Okay. Okay, folks. So this is obviously going to be a little more challenging than expected, but I think we're at a good point here. I'm going to push this code up. So if anyone is interested in contributing to it, you can try. And in the meantime, I might try to get some of this working where we can actually integrate with some real reviews to see some recommendations. And that would be pretty cool. And if I get that working, I'll post another video about it. But thanks for watching. Take it easy.